the success and the failure of the mall is so much dependent on the way it's been laid out, right? Like there has been the cases in the Pune where the mall had to be demolished because it was well designed from the architect's perspective, not from the shopper's perspective.
The layout, which is not as important in, let's say, an office, is very important in a retail mall. You want to know how the flow is moving, and whether it's a racetrack design or where the escalators are, and where the lifts are, which stores to keep on the ground floor and which on the first floor, so that you attract people.
The technical due diligence will position you to sort of a horizon of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, what will be the future of the assets, as well as what will you need to do to maintain it as A-grade assets or a AA grade assets. Over the years, we have evolved that processes, like that, which will check a lot of things for you, whether it's property worth buying, and even if you are buying, then what is that all that compliance is in terms of approval is done? Is the sufficient power there? Is the power need to be enhanced? What is the health of the equipment? What you have it? Is the floor space what they're claiming is there? A lot of our corporate tenants are looking at ratings. Most of them has a norms that they would not move into the building unless it's rated.
Let's talk about something that's very exciting to the both of us, which was the Whitefield asset that we kind of bought, and your involvement in that. We looked at this and said, look, the price that we're getting at is very low versus the market. The rent is also low. If we can buy this now and fix some of these issues, then it could really lead to a lot of value addition for the investors, and you could sell it at a much higher price later. What you were speaking about earlier, that technical diligence is not about how good it is now, but how we can add value to make it even better. Hello and welcome to this episode of the PROPSHARE podcast series. Today we are going to talk about a very important part of real estate investment, which is technical diligence. Something that even I've seen institutional investors sometime ignoring, which I think is not the right thing to do. We generally focus on some of the more important parts of the diligence, which is legal, title, financial diligence, but we tend to forget technical diligence, which is an in-depth analysis of the technical specifications of a real estate asset, which could be an office building or a residential apartment or a house or even a hotel, hospital, shopping center or a mall, and how it's working. Have you looked at the equipment that's making the building running, and whether you'll be required to spend money in the future on upgrading some of these equipment, which is a very small, very important consideration when it comes to putting money behind an asset. So that's something that we're going to speak about, and we have with us here someone who's been doing this for a very, very long time, Mr. Jayant Vaitha from Colliers. I've known him for a very long time. We worked together many, many years ago. Jayant was part of a senior team which founded India's largest project management company, Synergy. And incidentally, it was also my first investment that I ever made in Blackstone, and also Blackstone's first investment in India. So it was very, very special to meet Jayant and his team back in the day in 2007 and 8. And since then, of course, Synergy has been doing all the technical diligences for Blackstone investments and then various other private equity funds, and also for PROPSHARE in each of our investments. Jayant and his team help us in diligencing the technical aspects of the asset that we are buying. Jayant is actually an architect by training, and but over his career of over 30 years, he's kind of looked at every large asset class of repute in the country, from large office complexes and business parks to residential developments to hotels, hospitality. He's also been associated with international projects like the Canary Warf development in East London and also the Burj-Al-Arab in Dubai. And he's gone as far as Rwanda, Africa, to look at designing and implementing large residential and other real estate developments. Currently, he's a managing director at Colliers, which owns Synergy now. They invested in Synergy a few years ago after Blackstone and the Embassy Group exited. So, Jan, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Kunal, and thank you so much for introduction. Right, it's really great to see PropShare growing. Right, like, and I've been involved with your growth story right from the beginning, and
Right.
it's so lovely to see that. And thank you for highlighting the importance of the due diligence. The technical due diligence will position you to sort of a horizon of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. What will be the future of the assets, as well as what will you need to do to maintain it as A grade assets or a double A grade assets, So this is what it is, and I think over the years we have evolved that processes, like that, which will check a lot of things for you, whether is property worth buying, okay, and even if you are buying, then what is that all that compliance is in terms of approval is done? Is the sufficient power there? Is the power need to be enhanced? What is the health of the equipment? What you have it? Is the floor space what they're claiming is there? Is the loading of the areas are higher, lower? Is the layouts are sort of very effectively used, efficient enough? So multiple things would come in, and not all of them are that way quantifiable, but it's just that required that expert visioning. And I think over the year we should probably together be part of that process where we take it to the level and additional where it can you can read the building like an open book, and that's what we would like to offer and would like to sort of preach as well, right, to every one of our customers.
Right. So, I mean, you've told us a bit about what technical diligence is, the variety of things that you just spoke about. But if we just come down to the mechanics of it, so let's say, we hire Colliers to do a technical diligence of an office building. How do you go about it? What are the 2-3 steps that that you kind of straight away start doing?
That's correct. Yeah. No, we gather all the informations, and like say specifically, we check first of all the land, because the land being a vital asset for any real estate investment. The land versus land in the possession versus land on the documents. Any issues like in Bangalore we have sometimes the nalas and the kharab, and any discrepancies in the land document. Then probably the building plans are the approved plan versus the one which is built, which is what kind of compliance, is it 100%, if there is any deviation, whether is it really implicating ourselves into, or it can be ignored. So that's something which we do that. The second part is that the NBC and the fire norms, life safety becomes today very, very vital, and it has got a effect on the insurances and risk which you would carry. So we would analyze your building against the NBC life safety norms, international norms like NFPA, and give you the opinion. Sometime in the cases, we have even recommended to add the staircases, where it is required, because any of your future tenant will not compromise on the life safety. So while they will analyze the building their own way, our diligence should be able to sort of stand against their assessment, right? So that's something which we would be doing that. Then it's come to the next level of the electrical and the mechanical equipment. Whether are they, when was that bought, AMCs, whether will that be running at that efficiency in near future? Do you need to replace that? Then that becomes the capital cost, and from that you can see that whether do you need to correct any prices to the building which you're buying, right? And then comes the very vital aspect of sustainability. whether is the building sustainable, right? Like, sustainable not only in terms of certifications, but actually it is or not, right? Like whether the water has been a big problem everywhere, right? Whether is it has it got a source of water? Are we still have to buy the water for next 10 years, right? Whether are we our STPs and ETPs, are we efficiently utilizing the recycling of the water? And the second thing comes about the power. The only raw material today goes in the building is apart from little bit water and all those things is the power.
Right.
So the power is sort of always a challenge, right? Like, and that's where we always recommend that why the building doesn't have the solar. Whether can the building have a solar? Can we take up the entire solar lighting to supply the landscape and common area? Can we make the building net zero, right? Or is there a comparison between this building versus other building which is a net zero? What kind of value add? Because that actually will translate into the rent and has a more opportunity to sort of appreciation in the rent. So that part is there. Probably after the sustainability, it will become the ESG compliances. Whether the building is LEED rating, because a lot of our corporate tenants are looking at ratings. Most of them has a norms that they would not move into the building unless it's rated. So LEED gold is becoming a default today. We need to look at all our buildings should have that, but also the things like wellness rating is coming, where building is well certified, which is going one step ahead, and it goes into the building which actually sort of contribute to your health and well-being, right? Like, so those things are sort of rated little higher above even the sustainability rating, because it's really going to contribute. People is going to work, be happy living around. And then probably in the future I would look at the building which heals, the building which makes you better in terms of health, right? Like,
because you spend so much time in these buildings, 10-12 hours a day. You want to have a place where you can really go and
that's correct,
feel happy going to office.
That's right. Not only that, the building today, like a lot of buildings, the next generation of the building are generating sort of medicinal herbs. They are generating sort of even food sometime, right? Like, it's apart from being net zero, it's generating its own water. Everything is kind of self-contained, like it's a. So these are probably those buildings are yet to come in India, but I will look forward to the day it comes in, right? Like,
right.
And so it's like it goes a level up, level down. But what we look at more, apart from all of that those are like tick boxes or a assessment. But what I would look for you is I would look for in your building is that what is the value PROPSHARE will be unlocking, right, for buying this building, right? Like, whether you buy it, you probably need to have something which you fix it and put it to the next stage, right?
Exactly.
Or that hidden potential in that location, right? Like, or probably repurposing the use, right? Like, whether can PROPSHARE mix the retail along with the office and make it a double yield assets, right? Like, can PROPSHARE invite data center to that, right? Like, so these are the repurposing of the building which I'll be
which will add value to the investors who kind of own this particular asset. And we will talk about one particular asset that we worked very closely on and what we did there.
That's correct.
But from an investment point of view, the way I see it is, one is capital expenditure, which is, look, are the DGs functioning properly? Are all the equipments functioning properly today? I mean, you will tell me, Kunal, look, this DG looks like it's a bit old, and there are definitely some problems here, and they might need one more in the future, or the water cooling is not happening properly, and so on. And therefore, you might want to set aside 2-3 crores in the future, and therefore today you reduce the price by 2-3 crores so that you have something like this ready for the future, right? That's something that is super important for us, at least as investors. And the second bit is thus the operational cost of running these buildings? Do you see in the future that you could make the cost a lot more optimized in terms of using
That's
solar
correct.
or just improving the efficiency of the electrical equipment and the plumbing and so on, so that you can spend lesser and earn more in terms of rent? So those two things are very important for us.
That's a very, very valid point which you raise, right? Like, knowing that the buildings, majority of the building which we buy, we not been able to make that much of physical change. So where would we add the value? One is just the common area maintenance. The other is the efficiency of the building, right? The whether is your equipment, whether by sort of setting aside a fund which probably upgrade or change the equipment, right? Like say certain technologies in air conditioning, if you sort of do that, like and use that, like say the thermal cooling to whatever the next generation of the chillers, you can actually reduce the power bill by 15-20%,
Yeah.
and that's a huge saving. Today, that anyone in this industry knows that the rental part is very small. Is that power bill you would be worrying about? Like it's because that's you are a power guzzler, right? You are an IT industry, technology industry. So that is one thing which is very important. That's where the property sector can add that value by upgrading the power infrastructure, water infrastructure, and the one more part is that like adding the technology to the building, right? Like so today the buildings are sort of after once you build that, no one is adding too much to the building, right? And it's keep running till you sort of find that, oh, okay, I need to renovate that. But then there are a lot of technology exists today in the world which can bring you like the visitor management to the entire social management of the employees, right? Where that this guy's entire intranet working like the telling people that, oh, okay, there is a different food is available in cafeteria.
There's a different event happening today.
Events, right?
And
Yeah,
so on. So,
and entire so the governing of that. So the light, common area lighting automatically controlling itself, right? The toilet lighting to anywhere we can add that value. That should be we should be adding. Plus,
Right.
actually, the solar, right? Now today, the roof is not the only technology where you can use the solar. You can even have the solar film planted on your facade.
Right.
So any building you buy, you can plant your transparent solar film on your facade, and you can start generating
and it will not
electricity.
feel like a different building. It looks exactly the same.
Exactly the same, right? Like and there is a cases where even up to 35% of the power you can consume out of
Especially
the
in a
things,
country like India, which has
so much
sunlight.
of value over there, like and sort of not just that creating the building or a campus, but creating that environment which is yield so many things, like that's what today the building has a problem is that like if it is only the office building, there's no use for that in the evening, right? Like so why can't we sort of generate something which get the building used in the evening, right? Like be a little bit of retail, a little bit of F&B which works in the evening
Also
or
in
the
the weekends.
weekend. Yeah. So maximizing that usage of the building is something we have to do.
Okay. I mean, the other question I had was, in technical diligence, when you're doing something or design diligence, how is it different for, let's say, an office building when you look at it versus a retail or a residential? Is there something different you look at in these asset classes?
Yeah, do. I mean, we look at each from that tenant mindset, right? Like whether if I am a grade A tenant, right, a large corporate, what do I look at it? End of the day, I have to answer my board to any property which I lease it, right? So I need to tick all the boxes. So that is, and I would look at which way I would prove that this building is better than the next door other building, right? Okay. Like so, we would look at it that way and say that these are the ticking the boxes, and then, and this part is the value addition, right? Like, so that's becomes a kind of a commercial asset. While in the residential, if you look at it, apart from all that compliances, sustainabilities, everything, we need to look at the social infrastructure around,
Okay.
the way the city growing, right? What will be the traffic, where the people will be, will this become the prime residential area later on, or is it will it decline in the value, right? What is the traffic, where will be the metro, where will be the school, those are the aspects, right? Like that, when you look at
Social infrastructure is
yeah,
more important in residential
the
complexes.
residential, but even now is becoming equally for the offices, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
no one would like, the people, if you see that earlier, people used to go and live near to the offices. Now, because people is becoming more important, so the offices are coming where the people are living.
Right.
North Bangalore is that a classic example where you have more residential coming up there, and hence now the commercial also started coming in, right?
Yes.
Because if my people are like to live there, what choice I have it, right? So that's
Right.
would be the thing.
And for retail mall, how would you?
Oh yeah, that is the retail, I would say, by far, and it becomes one of the most complex analysis of socio-economic forces acting together, right? Like, the retail in Bangalore would be very different than Chennai and Hyderabad, like you have to look at that catchment area around, buying capacity of the people around, and how frequently they would like to go to the mall, and simply the spending habits, right? Like, so this is like
And
that.
in the mall itself, like how would that be different? Like, would you check the same things in the mall that you would check? Let's say I'm buying a mall and I tell you, look, Jay,
Yeah.
why don't you have a look at this mall? How would you look at it differently from an office building?
Yeah. Whoa, that's a very, very important thing which you asked, right? And so far, architects, I'm practicing architect myself, and we always been trying to figure out the success and the failure of the mall is so much dependent on the way it's been laid out,
Yeah.
right? Like, there has been the cases in the Pune where the mall had to be demolished because it was well designed from the architect's perspective, not from the shopper's perspective, period, right? Like, it has gone down the drain, right? Like, so this is what it is the mall layouts are sometime following certain format and the movement of the shoppers, but because of the socio-economical aspect of the shoppers moving around or from that area, how does it gel well together? That's the whole scenario, right? Like,
So
which
that
is
layout, which is not as important in, let's say, a office,
yes,
is very important in a retail
very
mall. You want
important,
to
right?
know
Like,
how the flow is
that's
moving,
correct, yeah,
and whether
yeah.
it's a racetrack
That's
design,
right.
or
Racetrack
where the
design,
escalators are, and where the lifts
of course,
are,
right?
which
Like,
stores to keep on the
yeah,
ground floor
yeah,
and which on
yeah.
the first floor, so that you attract people.
That's
and so
correct.
on.
And it's the retailers follow that kind of mentality of the herd, right? Because that's where, the look and feel and personal opinion is translated in actual revenues of the retailer, what they make. So you can make out whether, so the, whenever you see that the one retailer or a anchor not doing well affects everyone else, right? Like, and so there is a lot more science and things involved, but a lot of time the bad plan or physical plans of the mall also worked very well, and some of the best plans in the mall has been failed because so there are, circulation is one, the scale is another one, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, what is doesn't work so much in the office, like having best office building near to each other, works very well in retail. You have a three best mall together and it becomes the shopping area of the city, right? Like,
Right,
so
right.
that factors will come in, right? Like, and there is a kind of a runway time for the mall to set up, right? Like, it'll give you a lot of indicators. So there are lot more analysis, and that I would say is a very complex. would have to be not only be done by the architects, but it'll be need to be done by the retailers,
Consultants, and also to
consultants,
see where people are living,
that's
income
correct,
trends and so on.
yeah.
Right. Let's talk about something that's very exciting to the both of us, which was the Whitefield asset that we kind of bought, and your involvement in that. Just to give a summary of what we did there, we bought this slightly older office building, which had been vacant for some time, but had just been taken up by an educational company. And it came with all sorts of issues, which we saw in the diligence.
That's
There
correct,
was the pollution control board clearance was not there, the fire NOC clearance was not there, and then we had the power issues there. Lifts were kind of old, some of the equipment were old, and so on. And we looked at this and said, look, the price that we're getting at is very low versus the market. The rent is also low. If we can buy this now and fix some of these issues, then it could really lead to a lot of value addition for the investors, and you could sell it at a much higher price later. What you were speaking about earlier, that technical diligence is not about how good it is now, but how we can add value to make it even better. And we kind of we sat down and we said, yes, it's possible to do this. It'll take some time, but let's get our hands dirty and get it done. This is not a plain vanilla deal where you just buy, hold for 4 years, wait for the escalation and sell. Here you need to do some work. And we took up this, and we appointed your firm after the acquisition as well to make sure that we get all these issues fixed. So first tell us, what were those 3-4 things that really you saw which were quite bad in that building?
Yeah, that's correct. And while you were contemplating, I was the one who was damn sure in telling you that not to leave that building, right? Because you don't get every time the opportunity to unlock the value, right? And that was the thing. The permissions, statutory permissions were sort of missing. The fire NOCs were not there. The pollution control board NOCs were not there, but they were all doable. The building, even now, the building was old, structure is old, but it's generally well maintained and doable building coming at a very reasonable rate, right? And at a fantastic location, right? That time the metro work was not even started, right?
Exactly,
We were saying, what if the metro doesn't come? But yes, we know that metro is going to come.
It's only 200-300 meters from
and
the office.
Now you see that unlocking of the value once the metro starts. All over the world, whenever the metro gets connected, the jump in the value is unprecedented. So
especially for an educational tenant, because he has students coming there. So for them, metro is even better compared. Office going people can still come in by car or other kind of transport options. But a college guy could live anywhere in Bangalore and just take the metro and come here.
That's correct. Yeah. So that was one of the issues which we saw, is that not too much of a parking there, right? Because while it was done in 2000, whatever, 10, 11, right? The parking requirement of KIDB still lacks, right? There's nothing much at 1,000 square foot a one. But because the metro would be coming there, I was okay with that, right? Because when the metro is there, and now fortunately that prediction come true, where the authorities themselves has reduced the parking requirement, right? So that way it is, and so that way it compensates. It has got a decent amount of flow plate, and most important for the investors is that still has a potential left to build something.
Yes,
right?
We have extra FSI there to build 2 more floors on top.
So 2 more floors, and one thing which is proven here is that we don't need to always look for the office tenant, right? That alternative education tenant is proving its way that over the year he's building up, right?
It's ramping up.
He would prove to be a long-term tenant who would not be that much demanding like an office tenant, but still would be holding to the building because that is getting associated with his brand.
Right, of course. If we talk about the pollution issue there, what exactly was the issue?
Yeah, so that was actually the building was required to have the NOC from the Department of Pollution, which somehow didn't happen, right? So we got that thing resolved and got the NOC from the pollution department, and also at the same time on the occupancy you require a sort of a certification to occupy the building. So we had the STP functional, and then got the certification to occupy the building by the pollution department.
Right.
We still need few things more, upgrading, little bit of power and all of that, and that eventually can happen. But it's a great value unlock story. We probably look at in future. You can remodel the facade. You can add the extra FSI, change the landscaping, add some more elevators if required. And that's what it is. This is a nice scale of the building, which is not too big to experiment, So that's
and we own the entire building, which is great. So we have a lot of control there. And now that we've kind of worked through some of these issues, I think we can really begin to see some of the advantages of investing in that.
I think it's already probably that value addition to the price today. It's probably already crossed the double, I would say.
Definitely.
That's
the metro has definitely going to make a big difference. Earlier you spoke about LEED certification and gold, platinum and so on. So when LEED comes in to look at the building, what makes them say this is gold or platinum? What are those 2-3 things that they look at?
There are a set of criteria, around 43 or some criteria are there, which and against each of them one need to sort of score the points, and those points will decide whether the building is LEED silver, gold or platinum. Starting from the top, platinum need to generate its own power, right? At least 30% of that.
So 30% of the power the building should generate on its own through solar or some other sustainable.
Solar means, and that's not the only one. It's a kind of points, right? Right from the procurement of the construction material within the 300 kilometer radius, to how well is managing its water, to the air, to the well-being, all of that aspect will come in, right? And one of the things which I would definitely advise PROPSHARE, that future assets you should always at least have the LEED gold compliant. The certificate need not be there, but the compliance need to be there, right? Because that will help us in the future.
The last asset we bought, Prestige State Park, was a LEED gold asset, and you did the technical diligence, and you quite liked what you saw there.
It is very well made building by a reputed developer. There was nothing, absolutely no issues with the building, right? So I think that's one of the things which is there, that the AA, AAA type of the buildings are evergreen.
Okay. You talked a little bit about how buildings have changed over time. You obviously seen it being on the design front from the time we were discussing Embassy Golf Links, one of your first projects, 2003. Now, if you look at it, very ordinary in terms of quality of materials used. The construction cost at that time was 600-700 rupees a square foot, and today for less than 5,000-6,000 rupees you can't build a normal office building. Forget about a grade A building. So how have you seen this in your own 20-year career, going from I could see it from even within the projects, Golf Links to Manyata to Tech Village. If you look at these three assets that you worked on with Embassy, right? Manyata was even better, and Tech Village is
getting into
different level
really
altogether. So what are these few things that you have kind of
it's a really very, very interesting assessment, right? Golf Link in 2002 and 3, that it started with two building A and B, and then slowly as they acquire, they keep evolving the master plan, right? And nicely is interwoven, right? The building which are older were built, some of the built to suit, and that time the tenants were not so much demanding, right? So whatever the best they asked for, that was provided and built, right? Like, and because of the proximity to the HAL airport, the high rises were not so much possible,
Because
right?
of the funnel
like,
zone, so
that's
you couldn't
correct,
even
yeah.
go for a long height.
Yeah,
That's why you see
yeah.
very short
That's
buildings,
correct,
very
yeah.
dense.
Yeah, and because it is kind of a interwoven plots, there were not that kind of urban open space were also available, right? Like, you know, so it is whatever you have it between the two buildings, you best use it. So that is how it was done. Compared to that, Manyata was a planned
Yeah.
development.
You had the
right?
whole
Like
112
master
acres,
plans
you could
and
master plan it
that's correct.
properly.
And then circulations, traffic, all of that were built. But at the same time, while Golf Link has a lower FAR, Manyata has much higher because of the ring road, right, access. So it's become slightly denser, larger at 120 acres, become much bigger. But that's also as a fabric, it's kind of evolved very well with everything kind of getting complete. The jigsaws falling into place. You have a hotel, you have a lot of roads, circulations, parking buildings, its own retail areas, all of that is there.
Its own flyover as well.
Yeah, it's a flyover also, right? Like, which is, and now it will have its metro as well, right? Like,
Right.
And
So is the metro going to have a stop at Manyata now?
Metro will be just stopping just next to that, right? Walkable distance, very well walkable distance. But then the next one is the new generation of the building of ETV, where it's directly takes you from the metro to the buildings, right? Like, and that's where I would say the downtowns work, right? Like, so that way ETVs and all of the buildings are becoming models.
They are integrated with the public transport system.
System.
You could just get in and then go to the airport right from the office.
That's correct. And not only with the metro, with the city bus systems, buses coming in, dropping, picking off. And the important part is the way the buildings are. Buildings are much more focused on that overall experience than rather just being the offices, right? Though they are built to suit, but they are A grade, triple A grade building where the security, be it a security, be it a entertainment, be it a retail experience, because you have to imagine that around 100,000, 50,000 people coming down at a lunchtime, what would they do, right? Like, where would they go?
Yeah. I mean, Manyata has 100, 200,000 people coming down.
And everyone have their own cafeteria, but then people seek varieties. Our people are spoiled, right? So it's where would they walk, right? When they walk, will they have enough footpath? Those are the aspects catered in the new development, right? Like, say, there are arcades at the ground level where the people can roam around, have a tea, shop something, eat something, go up at 4 o'clock, or sit around, take your phone calls.
Like in the West, if you go to Canary Warf, for example, there are various buildings, each corporate headquarters, but at the bottom, they are all connected by the underground systems. You can go to the basement and suddenly you have this huge shopping mall underground, which has everything. With winter or summer, you can just go down and every brand is there. So they're connected internally, which is something that is now slowly
that's
happening.
what has been happened in Embassy, the parcel which we are working on. There's got a hotel, IT park, retail, and everything is connected through metro, right? Like, and underground. So you enter through the metro, then you enter through the retail areas, and then you come out in the building, right? Like, so you don't see too much of traffic. Today, the separating the traffic from the surface is always a challenge. The new generation of the buildings are having, everyone will come at even the buses are entering in the basement, dropping you off at a place, and then there are escalators to take you to a concourse level, just like airport, right? Like, and then you go
to
pick
your own office,
pick your core and go up, right? Like, and then probably where do you go? Straight to the office? No, probably you go to a podium level where there are a lot more garden, gym, coffee shop, everything is empty.
Right.
Then probably you go up, right? So it's a building has to cater for different people, and that's the typology is evolving. The new type of the building which you will be seeing in the future will be making much more sort of intricate statement about the lifestyle.
This was also my final question to you. You've already given us a lot of great points on technical diligence and design and of new properties. But finally, this question to you today: if I'm a developer and I want to attract Goldman Sachs to my office, or Microsoft or Apple, for example, what do I need to do? What will he ask for technically in an office building today for me to have rent it out to Apple?
I know. I think the things which probably, if I looking at what say Microsoft, we are involved in Google Campus, and I understand what are the top firms asking. Either they would build it for themselves, or they would ask you to stand out in the crowd, right? That's the thing. What way you as a developer transferring your vision, right, which is aligned to my companies, right? That's what they would be asking, right? That's and they are big believers in sustainability.
Right.
If you tell them that I would not be building anything new for you, Mr. Microsoft, I will be repurposing my old building so it's more sustainable for you, they probably would be game for that.
They'll be more interested than a new building than something.
That's how
like
they
this.
build
That's
it in
very
London, right? That's how they build it everywhere else.
Yeah.
They're like repurposing, right? It doesn't make us sustainable by rebuilding every time someone asks for the office space, right? There are different ways, right? And that's what it is. Building is like a living thing. It's Prometheus ship, right? You keep taking away the bricks and replacing that, and it still remains the same building, right? So that's a analogy, and I think that's where the office has lost its own formality, right? Now office can be anything. Office is a part of the retail mall. It could be part between the downtown area full of residential, so it's how you define that. But do stand out, right? Do come with a concept which is more futuristic and more aligned to the people. I think all the companies agrees on one part, is that the building need to be people centric.
Exactly.
Buildings are built for people, right? Not for the developers.
So that's a good point to end on. But yeah, good design, I guess, just stands the test of time. Hundreds of years, they kind of remain great. Thank you so much, Jayant, for this. I hope you enjoyed listening to Jayant as much as I did. As you can see, he's very passionate about design. He's done a lot of diligences and designing in his career, and we always have fun speaking to him, and I hope him and his team continue to work with us in the future as we grow our business at PropShare. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.